You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
And I will make it a threesome.
It's false. No way. Not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction.
Now I'm playing with power.
Great graphics.
He's traveled across time and space. Finally, he's here. The ultimate Terminator. He looks mean. He sounds mean.
Fuck you, asshole.
And with the awesome hand blaster, he's a real mean machine. The ultimate Terminator for the ultimate Terminator adventure.
Chill out, dickwad.
Your clothes. Give them to me.
Somebody said alien. She thought they said illegal alien and signed up.
We're the Space Marines, Drake. Ripley.
I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
Apone.
You secure that shit, Hudson.
Bishop. And I'm Hicks.
He's Hicks.
Space Marine figures and alien figures, each sold separately.
In the future, you have to defrost a cop to put a criminal on ice.
Let's go blow this guy.
Sylvester Stallone is John Spartan, the Demolition Man.
You shit
The toughest cop in the 21st century.
This is the Rapper.
Wesley Snipes is cold-blooded Simon Phoenix.
Hands up!
But Demolition Man always keeps his cool.
Why didn't you just shove a leash up my ass?
It's the ultimate confrontation as power-armed Terminator faces certain death, only to return stronger and more powerful as Techno-Punch Terminator.
I need a vacation.
Terminator 2.
Ripley's got the power loader!
Get away from her, you bitch!
Did you call moi a dipshit?
It's a boy!
Wish I could have met my real dad.
Yo, Hicks, once we get it, no reservation!
It's the Flying Queen alien and her gruesome gorillas. Send in the ultimate Space Marine, ATAX.
Who?
In his big, bad bug suit.
I'm back. Got to find John Connor.
But evil T-1000 gets to him first.
Holy shit!
Terminator's heavy metal cycle zeroes in and fires. But T-1000 stands to get even.
You're next, John Connor.
Oh shit!
Fuck you, lady!
Good answer.
Rick, you little meatball.
You are what you eat!
Says free!
Are all fluid transfer activities like this?
The future isn't big enough for the both of them.
You really licked his ass.
Demolition Man, figures and Bola Jet each sold separately, new from Mattel.
Fucking A.
The dreaded beast versus the savage hunter. Aliens versus Predator. This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus with whipping dreadlocks.
You're one ugly motherfucker.
And the ferocious mother alien in her monstrous hive traps Spike Tail, then covers him in ooze.
Jeez, you got a big pussy.
Aliens versus Predator. Queen Hive playset comes with mother alien figure and ooze. Other figures sold separately.
Jeez, you got a big pussy.
We're doing it.
Here at AF, we work hard to make sure we've got the facts to back up every accusation of chuddery, that we're entertaining every time we spotlight some fascistic film fandom flimflamer, culture vulture, Star Wars swindler, or comics conman. And by we, I mean me. And while I'm certainly not doing it for money, I do need to buy a new PC soon for continued editing and streaming. That's why I want to express my deep gratitude to my support on Patreon, from dopest members like William, Michael, and Smirking Gun. That's not to say that the members at the chillest and basest tiers are any less appreciated. But even if you can't swing it, you can follow me for free on Patreon and still get some exclusive content and opportunities to chat directly with me. YouTube makes us give every ounce of ourselves. Sometimes it feels like we're being milked dry. Support at any level is hits. Look, here's the thing.
It's the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. It's clobbering time.
Stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect. Forced adversity.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying? Fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth.
And they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are.
How do you think homosexuals reveal themselves?
And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Okay. I think I finally figured out how homosexuals reveal themselves. Kind of like this. Hello. Hi. Is that? I'm going to bring on Morgan and see if that's accurate. Morgan.
Like a sup. How's it going?
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right.
Most greetings.
just generally the same way that like straight people do.
Yeah, typically speaking, that's, there's not a secret
Yep.
handshake that I'm aware of.
I mean, be cooler if there was.
But, that's fair, but like, that's just kind of living, right?
It is. It's like actually the actuality, the reality of gay people, queer people in general is just like they're just like us. I mean, me, I guess is what I should say. But like, they're boring. Everybody's boring, man.
Everyone's boring, right?
Everybody's fucking bored and boring, and everybody's traumatized, and life is hard.
But that's like when all these Republican, like not politicians, but sometimes politicians, sometimes the Marjorie Taylor Greene types will have all these crazy conspiracy theories about how Biden is going to like throw pastors in jail or whatever for violating the Johnson Amendment, or you're taking companies away from their owners because they're stiffing employees. And I'm like, is Biden that cool? Like, you're making him sound cool. I'm pretty sure he's just kind of whatever.
Yeah. He's like mostly kind of like middle of the road. Like doing the bare minimum to like appease the soft left.
Right.
And then sometimes like he'll do something kind of cool, like when but only after he does something really shitty, like with the whole railroad union thing.
Right.
Where like he totally screwed him up. But then after he's like, all right, I'll give you all a little bit of something, but like on the down low.
Right.
That's what we got, and we're getting, and that's accused of being like communism and stuff.
Right. Biden's gonna kill God, and I'm like, is Biden that powerful? Can Biden kill God?
I kind of would like to see like a really epic painting of that. Like somebody
cool,
paint, like 80s metal cover, metal album cover style of like just Biden, and he's like got his knee up, just like on a god. I don't know what the god would look like, but it'd be,
with like the sunglasses on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he's like, he's like, I don't know. I was trying to think of some way to incorporate fuck Brandon in there, or whatever, but like, let's go Brandon, I guess. I don't know.
It's like he's beating him up with a coffee mug that says, let's go Brandon.
Yeah, that's it.
Hit God over the head with it.
Did you know they legit was selling the Biden campaign, I guess, not the they were legit selling like merch that had Dark Brandon on it.
Oh yeah, no, they went all in, because
that's pretty cool.
You may as well lean in, right? Like,
you gotta own it. You gotta, when somebody comes at you with some dumb shit like that, you're just like, yeah, you know what? That actually makes it sound pretty cool. I mean, the same way that like, I made a whole video on how we're the detractors, like me and you guys in the initiative, because we got voted the number 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 detractors of Eric July, right?
Right.
And hold on one second.
Yeah, I think that while you're pulling that up, I think the whole Dark Brandon thing, like, yeah, you lean into it, because now, like, what are they going to do? Talk about it more? I know Fox News throw a temper tantrum, like, how dare he turn our joke back on us? That's not fair. It's like, well,
see, that's the thing, and I think now that I'm thinking about it, we need to do an episode or a few maybe on this. I don't know, because there's this. I'll tell you what got me on looking into this, or thinking about it more and stuff, looking into it more off stream. But like, I started looking at how the right is so. I mean, the left does it too. Everybody does it. We kind of live in the way that social media works is this basically. But the right generally is much more shameless about it. Like, not only embracing the controversy, but like creating non-controversies.
Oh yeah, non-controversy. I mean, yeah.
It's
what it often is just like a distraction, and this isn't unique to the Republican Party. So last week in the UK, the Brianna Gay case came back. I might be pronouncing her last name.
From what I understand, it's actually Jay.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But her verdict came out, and like the TERFs came out and like doing protests and stuff. And you had J.K. Rowling and a bunch of them making a big, Twitter tantrum. And it was just to create this non-controversy about like the 1.5% of lesbians that are TERFs getting like.
What were they protesting? People getting punished for murder?
I guess. But like they had to make it about them, because like, oh no, we can't just like let the news cycle be about how,
Yeah.
Our ideology has killed a child again.
Yeah, basically that people might empathize with this poor teenage trans girl that died, was murdered brutally, because we can't have that, right?
Right.
Like, Christ. We got to get on with this show. Look, we got to talk about lighter topics today. Okay, don't worry.
Yeah,
all
lighter
15
topics.
of you watching. We're not going to just keep going down this road of like talking about real life murders of trans people and stuff like that. We're talking about X-Men. And of course, there's a little corollary there. There's some relation between X-Men and marginalized groups. And of course, you've already seen the title of this thing. We're talking about Genosha.
Mm-hmm.
For those that aren't aware, what Genosha was. Yeah, it's got a history. It's got an interesting history as a in canon X-Men thing. It's actually kind of like it's a very important part of X-Men canon. It's one of the big moments that aren't just about like, there's like the moments that happen in the comics where it's like happens because of or including the X-Men themselves, where they're like some battle or whatever. But then there's often this other stuff that happens, like it's like outside of them, that in the world that changes the the kind of landscape of things. There's the a lot of people know about the No More Mutants thing that came after Genosha.
Yep.
But was essentially the for a long time that was the beginning of the dark ages of the X-Men comics. But yeah, we'll get there. But we're going to talk about Genosha, and you can't talk about Genosha without talking about genocide.
Yeah, you really, unfortunately,
and slavery.
And slavery, yeah. Big fans of the slavery.
Eugenics and just like forced labors and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So we're going to talk about it. And let's be honest, it's probably going to lead to talking about Krakoa.
On this podcast, are you Dane fandom? Are you telling me that we're going to talk about Krakoa on this podcast? Oh my god, I can't believe it.
I see a couple of people just couldn't handle the idea of talking about Genosha. It's too heavy for them, I guess. Don't want to talk about some X-Men lore. That's fine. All right. Well, but we're also going to talk about a couple of examples of IRL situations. We're not going to go into a whole lot of detail, really. Just kind of look at some general commonalities. Genosha is not anything that directly relates to any one thing, but there are several real life incidents, nations, situations that you can point to that, like, oh, I see that in that. And one of them in particular, I'm especially excited to talk about because it's one that my girlfriend introduced me to. And it's in my state that I live in now, or was in my state. And I get to talk a little bit about Oregon and the kind of fucked up history that this state has compared to other states that aren't in the South.
Wait, are you telling me that Wisconsin isn't the villain this week?
No, it's actually, it's my state this time. But I mean,
holy shit.
We can find a way there. I bet we can.
We'll find a way to Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we haven't gotten to the end of it yet. Really, kind of. I mean, I guess the last time we saw Krakoa, he was getting up and hauling ass and swimming away.
Yeah, he's like, fuck it, I'm out.
Oh shit, Nimrod found me. I got to get the fuck out of here. After he spit some fucking sap all over Nimrod and like
just oozed all over him.
Totally incapacitated him. That was pretty cool. It was a baller move is what the kids say, I think.
At some point, yeah, I'm sure kids at some point said that.
What up, Throggy? How's it going? And yes, Brianna was essentially minding her own business. If you haven't looked into, I mean, if you can stomach it, there are text message exchanges between the two people that killed her, and it reveals a lot, and it reveals a desperate fucking need for, trans people to be seen as human beings and not like, objectified and sexualized and demonized and all these other things that happen.
The texts are if you can stomach it, I got about part way through and I had to give up. I'm like, nope. I have read enough here.
I remember when it happened, there were people that were actually like, "Oh, we don't know that it's because she was trans." It's like, okay, no, we don't know that, but like we kind of do. We just kind of have a strong feeling, don't we? It's very much. It was exactly about that. I mean, at the same time, though, I will say this: at the same time, they had talked about killing someone prior to her being the one they talked about.
Yeah.
And that would seem like there was just like a desire to murder someone by at least one of those kids.
But one of them was obsessed with her because she was trans.
Yep. I mean, actually, it seemed like she was obsessed. I think it was the girl that was obsessed with her. I might be mistaken. Remember. But like, yeah, they were obsessed with her, not despite her being trans was the thing. Because I remember that being kind of surprised that it was like they were into her, and then they were confused by that because they knew she was trans.
Right.
And it's like, well, that just means don't fucking worry about it. Like, it's fine. I mean,
it's fine. Yeah. The amount of fucks that you have to give about that and make it a whole deal is fucking none.
Yeah. Brianna J or Gay or one of those two in what was it, UK?
It's in the UK, yeah.
This was earlier or last year. Actually, you know what? While we're on the subject, and thankfully there has been some justice done. There's no true justice for this type of thing, but like these people needed to be taken out of society. Unfortunately, they're very young, and that sucks that two people that young can end up so fucking off the path of like being a decent human being, but that's what happened. But I do want to just kind of, since not everybody's aware, let's remember Brianna for a moment.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool picture. There's all kinds of new pictures I haven't seen before.
Oh.
Because before, there was really just like...
the one or two, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of happy pictures of her. And we, I try to talk about it on the show whenever I get a chance about trans joy, because we hear about,
a lot of trans
suffering. But we don't get to talk about the good times as much, and it's important to see them and remember them.
Yep. I mean, this came up a lot more, less good resolution than I thought it would, but still.
Yeah.
You see her smiling there. I mean, really, every picture I've seen of her, she's smiling. So
smiling, yeah. Seems like a really happy kid.
It's almost like that whole, narrative that transphobes push is not necessarily accurate. Anyway.
I would go so far as to say it is an outright lie.
It is.
Yeah.
She deserved better. Nobody deserves that shit. Nobody, literally nobody. Even the fucking kids that did it don't fucking deserve that. And that's what's fucked up, is that they're genuinely little monsters that yes, they need to be locked up and for foreseeable future, and treated well though is the thing. Fed well and fucking given healthcare and hopefully some kind of like psychological counseling
therapy. Yeah.
But literally nobody. Well, okay, maybe like I'd maybe say everybody can give themselves 5 people in their mind that maybe deserves to be. No, I'm not. Nope, I'm not going to make that. But I can think of a couple of people that might deserve it. Maybe I'm just a little bit raw after the Soskas.
Yeah.
Nobody deserves that either.
No.
There's some shit from the Rippaverse thing, and yeah.
So what's with Goalpost shouting you out? Like,
it's pretty cool. I love it. I mean, yeah. Thank you for reminding me, because I can brag about that. And I'm glad that he did it. I'm glad he did that before I finished doing this video that I was kind of slowly putting together, which is to show how right I was about the Ethan and Eric situation. It's like whenever I found out that they were buddies and they streamed together and stuff, it's like, man, this is not going to last, because Eric is already making more money than Ethan has. He's already he's going presumably if he keeps going, he's going to put out more comics than Ethan has, and he has now.
For sure. He has it now. Yeah. Are they tied now?
Something like that. But yeah, and then and Ethan cannot let that stand. And then there was a stream where Jarbo was on with me, and we were talking about this, and he even said no, he didn't think that was going to happen. He said, no, I don't think they're going to stay cool with each other because that'll split the Comicsgate, fan base right in half and whatever. And I was like, I don't know, man. I just think that I kind of know these guys kind of well now at this point, and I just think their egos aren't going to allow them to exist in the same, echelon.
Right.
And then so at that point, Rippaverse, this is like months ago, Goalposts, posted clips of us talking about that on Twitter, saying, actual fandom Matt Jarbo think that they're gonna have a fight and not be friends. They're good friends. Why would they do that? And then like a week later was when all the shit fucking just popped off, and it was really funny to see. But then now I happened upon this, like, can't believe I'm actually saying this. Actual fandom was correct about some people and their patterns of behavior. He's still wrong about 90% of things, though.
Right. We can't just like all the way, right? But
yeah. I mean, you didn't need to do that, honestly. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why they do this. Some of the things that they do. It's like
I will never pretend to understand why.
He shared a clip recently of from the initiative where we were talking about, how Eric has all these detractors now that are like, even higher profile than us and stuff like that. But like we were kind of joking around, like saying, remember, we were the first ones. We were the number ones there, right?
Right. You were the OGs.
Yeah. And he took it seriously. He was like, oh, they're reminiscing about the good old days when they were the number one detractors. And it's like, okay, fine. You can dunk on us for that or whatever. But you need to share the full 2 minutes and 20 seconds where we get lots of really solid digs in on Eric. And like that was like the first 15 seconds of the clip, and then he's let the rest of it go too. And it's like, oh my God, why do you do this to him, or yourself rather?
Yeah, to the why does the mysterious owner of that account just like kind of serve as your hype man in a weird way?
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, to be fair, they're obsessed with anybody that has anything vaguely negative to say about Eric, so it's not just me. Like I would be weirded out if it was just me, but it's Eric July who runs that account. I'm just saying. It just is.
I would not be surprised.
All evidence points to it, and I've given plenty of opportunities. The invitation still stands to show up on a Friday stream or Wednesday. I'm sure the initiative will be fine with it too.
Probably.
Get on stream and talk to us. No weird AI voice change or anything, and you should be able to dispel that pretty quickly. But they refuse to do that, so. Till then, I just have to assume.
I will, if I may, you can shoot me down. I think we could have a whole conversation about like giving people media attention on this show. And I think they would be a very interesting guest to have on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've typically avoided like trying to cross directly the streams of this show.
Right. No, but I think like there is we talk about like controversies and giving people attention on this show. And I think we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
In a scholarly way that isn't necessarily a debate, because I suspect they would have some interesting thoughts on it.
I mean, true. Yeah. That would
non-hostile, non-confrontational environment.
We'll have to talk about that some more because it's an interesting proposal.
Yeah.
I did want to show. So this is a photo here of the people that are willing to pay money in Florida to see the Friday, the main Friday Night Tights Phantom Menace guys. There they are.
All right. These are them.
Yep, and it looks about white.
Yeah, that looks pretty white. All right, I want to zoom in on this.
Ed said that he counted like I think 2 or 3 black people, and then like 2 or 3 or something, Hispanic looking-ish people, and who knows. But I mean, that is, considering the Florida, just general demographics of Florida, you would think there would be.
Well, it's a convention fire code. They're not going to let standing room be a thing.
I'm talking about the I guess the racial makeup.
Oh, the racial makeup. Okay.
And there's also a lot of olds.
It's a lot of older people, yeah.
Not to be too ageist, but there's some olds in there. Caucasian from the mountains of Conquest.
Wow.
It's like Where's Waldo except with black people. Oh man. Yeah, look at all this diversity.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, they don't want to talk about. They want to boil that all down to white. They don't want to talk about,
Right. Yep.
How all the different diversity, diverse populations of Europe are A, very different culturally, and B, spent centuries killing each other, if not really millennia.
At least a couple of these that Screwface is listed here were not considered white 100 years ago.
Yeah.
At least a couple of them. That being one of them being me. I'm Irishman. Not literally, but
you weren't white 100 years ago. By magic, you're white today.
Somehow, I don't know. I guess I crossed the threshold. I don't know.
It was a wizard. A wizard did it. Made all the Irish people white.
Did you know in police cars it actually says Sentinel? What do you mean? Like in a show? What? Or?
I think he's talking about what was
The Gifted.
New Mutant, The Gifted.
Yeah.
That was actually a really good show. I
watched several episodes and I enjoyed it. Yeah. I guess
that.
I think I remember hearing that it was going to be not renewed or something, and I said I'm not going to get too much more invested in that. But it was cool that they centered Polaris. There's
Polaris and Sunspot.
Yeah. Two great characters that have also gotten some pretty good moments in the old Krakoan age that is coming to an end. And then let's see.
So I won't be surprised if at the end of this it's Krakoa is dead, long live Krakoa, and we see things change, but there still be some form of it.
Well, so I don't know if you guys heard about. Did you hear about the new? I'm doing a little free promotion for the Rippaverse here. Okay.
I guess he shouted you out. It's only fair.
Yeah, he did. Not him, but his, the goalpost account. Wink, wink, Eric. So this is real. Apparently, Albacore Tuna Book did not make enough money, as much as was expected, and probably as much as was promised to Chuck Dixon. So I guess in order to keep the old legend, the legendary Chuck Dixon that everybody was clamoring for, but only Eric July got him. I guess to keep him appeased, he let him and Joe Bennett, JQ Joe and QAnon Chuck, they're going to do another book called Horseman.
I am sorry, what?
This is real.
You are.
I am not fucking trolling right now. I'm so glad you hadn't heard of this so that I can fucking tell you about it.
What in the cinnamon toast fuck am I looking at?
Well, it kind of looks like a bit of a Nightwing / Azrael in the Batman armor kind of.
Yeah, I've got like an Azrael vibe from this. Down to having the definitely not bat ears.
Well, that's not bat ears. They're horse ears because
they're right. Oh, sure, right.
He's got the main horn there because it's a horn and a main.
Horses have those.
Yeah, it's more like a unicorn.
Yeah, it's
Oh, that's cute. It's like a unicorn then. Okay, so Unicorn Man. So there are several issues with this, and this actually, the reason I bring this up is because I do think that this is done with some awareness that it's not good. That it's a silly idea.
You have to be leading into that, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, because we were just talking about that, and that's what made me, one of the things that made me start thinking about it lately is like, I think that they're actually doing this on purpose because it's a ridiculous fucking thing. And that's not to say you can't have a good comic called Horseman or whatever, because there already was one in the 90s.
I know that.
Yeah, completely different thing, but still, it's just another incident where apparently Eric didn't Google it first.
Does the publisher own it still?
I don't know. We'll find out if and when there's a lawsuit forthcoming.
Yeah, because I gotta imagine if Warner Brothers, their bank account's looking a little light these days. They got to get some worth out of those lawyers they have. So yeah, I can see that.
I also wanted to point out the fact that George R.R. Martin, he used the word anti-fans.
He did. I saw that make its way around, and I'm like, you know what else I saw? You want to know how I saw it? was people complaining that he hasn't put out his book yet.
Yeah.
It's also like, I mean, I've made jokes about that, but that's their reaction is like, "Where's your book, man?"
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is really easy. He's now had 2 successful TV shows. He doesn't need to write the book.
Well, and I would, I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't say this, or maybe this isn't even accurate, but I have to imagine that once the show finished, even though it, I'm sure it wasn't. I mean, I know it wasn't exactly what he planned for the ending.
Sure.
But still, there has to be a demotivating factor to like, oh, well, it's already been completed, kind of thing. Now he's not as incentivized in his own mind, like creatively,
right,
kind of thing. But
this is one of those things people don't talk about with the ending of anything: TV shows, movies, books, book series, especially. Endings are hard.
Yeah,
endings fucking suck to write.
True. It's true. But I just want to say that, he's an actual fandom watcher confirmed. What up, GRR Germ? Because,
hit up the Patreon.
Everybody knows that I am the one that popularized the term.
That term, yeah.
Not really. I do think I started using it enough that other people started using it that have much larger platforms than me. I do think that. I think
it spread sort of locally in this group of creators.
And then and then it's like, oh, that's so it's just like once you hear it, kind of like Pillar of Garbage. I don't think that he was really saying it before. We asked him to do that bit for the mission statement. I might be wrong, but he says it now. He's a fan. He's a big fan of us. Sorry. But no, okay. So the reason I think that about Horseman being a intentional thing, right, is because there was the other day, last week or something, old Chuck posted this image. Right? Whoops. This one.
Oh yeah, his fucking fraud.
And and then you got Nightwing here, which Chuck wrote some Nightwing, a good amount of it, I think, probably too much. And then here's this, and then of course Tom Taylor, did like just the classiest fucking shut the fuck up, Chuck, without actually saying that.
He was very diplomatic.
It's like legit, like the perfect response to it because he's, of course, he's one of the only ones really that could do that because he's writing Nightwing.
Right.
But he was like, thank you for Nightwing, basically. And also, this is not right.
There was some amount of like politeness jujitsu going on.
So I'm thinking that that was kind of like feeling it out a little bit before the announcement somehow, just kind of like, look what they've done to Nightwing or whatever kind of shit. And then he got called out and he did delete that. After Tom Taylor,
Oh, did he? I didn't. I've been a busy beaver, so I
quietly deleted with no follow up. Yeah.
Oh, right. Imagine that. Yeah. Holy shit. I definitely think that it's possible that was sort of testing the waters for this. Oh wow! Look at that.
Yep. So it's kind of interesting that now this Horseman is a ridiculous thing that is bound to grab people's attention to talk about, to make fun of, and that it also very much looks kind of like, it's using weapons that fucking Nightwing uses, and then he's also kind of looks like another character that Chuck wrote. It just
real. Yeah.
Too many coincidences for me to think that they just didn't do some of this on purpose. And then you have to ask, what is the reason why they would do it this specific way, right? And that's what I come to. Maybe I'm cynical.
It might be a little conspiratorial, but I don't think that. I mean, these people kind of earned it, right? Like,
yeah. Yep.
Because they've gotten up to some shit. Oh. That's cool. I also think about that because I might have some questions for Ming Na Wen.
What do you mean, Mulan actress? You're talking about now I forget her name. On Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Oh yeah.
Well, I forget her name. Shit. But Pillar of Garbage, speaking of, put out an excellent video on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. of all things the other day.
Wow, that's a throwback.
I don't know how it's like, man, he's on top of the current thing, but then he's also covering Chud's responses to things. But then he'll also be like, here's the thing, like my 6th video about Community, or here's a video about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm like, I fucking love you. In a totally parasocial way. Don't worry about it. Agent May, thank you. The Cavalry. Yeah, that's it. Ask her, could Chun-Li? I bet she's been asked that before. I'm willing to bet.
She probably has been, yeah.
She probably doesn't love being asked about Chun-Li necessarily. I don't know.
I have no idea.
It's not a good movie.
I mean, it's a movie that is certainly memorable, right? It is not a movie you easily forget.
That is true. That's also true. Trying to think here. What else I might have had to look at? Do we have a show planned? Did I have a show planned?
Yeah, Genosha.
Playing a show? Shit.
Yeah, you were.
We're already 40 minutes in. We haven't started the show.
We haven't even talked about You're the Bob.
We haven't, because I kind of don't. You know what? I do have something.
Ooh.
But I'll think about it, because I got a couple of things and I'm not sure. Man, I really didn't take time to organize my thoughts. I knew what I would want to talk about, but then guys, I suck. All right. Nah. I just do. No, I think I actually got kind of messed up from that stuff the other night, watching the Soskas and then seeing, the way Eric responds to it and downplays it. And, it just pisses me off. It genuinely pisses me off that he has done so much fucking anti-LGBTQ fucking propaganda, saying these, making these ridiculous claims and painting with such a broad brush about weirdos and freaks and stuff like that. And it's like, I said the other night that those are not terms that I generally think about at all, that I wouldn't ever call anyone those things, except for when I'm thinking about them right now. I'm like, well, if I was going to call somebody those words, it would probably be the incest sisters, the incest twins, who
that's the thing,
who do vomit and piss porn and exploit a 92-pound homeless addict girl in order to make some of their fucking schlocky, lame ass edgelord bullshit crap.
Fuck them in particular.
Yeah. Whoops. No, I didn't hear about. I don't really care about Shane Gillis and SNL, to be honest.
I don't know who Shane Gillis is, and I don't care about SNL. So
he actually got fired from there, I think, a couple of years ago, because he's made some kind of jokes about Asians or something like that, I think is what I recall. And they fired him, and it was a cancel culture. And it's like, do they not realize? Does this mean cancel culture is dead now? Can we say that?
Cancel culture was never. It's always been dead, right?
I know. It's
never been real.
It's never been real.
Cancel culture is a fiction, unless you're the chicks, or you come out as trans or gay.
Mm-hmm. Or yeah, if you're like Brianna J, for example, that's real.
No, but they it's cancel culture is one of those controversies, right? It's a thing we've made up to get offended about nothing.
True that. So I guess we will move on to talking about Genosha and
Genosha.
And I'm sure I will be able to slide some Wolverine in there.
So what? I don't know much about Genosha. I think the first X-Men thing I partook in that talked about Genosha was actually X-Men Legends 2 back in like 2006, which was a video game.
Well, excuse me. Trying to find my tabs here. Are you familiar with the character of Cassandra Nova?
I am.
Okay.
I after that I read about what happened to Genosha, and I read that X-Men run. And that's sort of my knowledge. It's all of my knowledge of Genosha.
That's really it. Honestly, like there's not much more to it than that. let's see. There's I actually did, you know what, it did go through a few phases. So the initial phase of Genosha was that like whenever the mutants, the X-Men came upon it, I'm trying, man, I had apparently too many freaking documents open about Genosha, and now here we go. I think this is it. Yes. Okay. Okay, so Genosha, officially, it's known as the Republic of Genosha. It's a small crescent-shaped island located to the northeast of Madagascar, on the eastern coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. It has two major cities, Carrion Cove and Hammer Bay. Hammer Bay is a name that you've probably seen in X-Men a few times, just because it's one of those ones that sticks out. You know, especially in relation to Magneto, there was a big battle there, so you have seen the X-Men refer to, like, you know, Magneto at Hammer Bay or whatever.
Right.
It's a turning point kind of battle. And then I can pull open the map here, show you that. So yeah, there it is. It's near the Seychelles, the seashells. There's Zanzibar, and you know, these are Mozambique over here. These are real places.
Those are real places, yeah. It's always interesting how like Marvel will add places to the map, but like in weird parts of the world where like DC just adds stuff everywhere, they're just like, fuck it, we're putting cities on the map, we're putting countries on the map. Marvel's a little more judicious with that.
Yeah. Yep. And it's always been one of the interesting things to me between the two, and I mean, if I'm applying opinion to it, interesting, and I prefer it. You know, the way Marvel does it. I don't know, because like to me it gets confusing, right? Because Gotham clearly is meant to represent like New York and or you know, like Philadelphia, Chicago, depending, you know what I mean? But like within those cities also exist. You know,
that's like Metropolis is also New York, so it's like good New York, bad New York.
Kind of. And then also those two, depending on, I mean, I don't think that the Batman versus Superman was the first thing to do this, but like maybe in the comics, somebody can let me know, but like, are they actually pretty close to each other? Because like basically in BVS, it was like they're basically across the bay from each other or whatever, you know. It's kind of wild. So yeah, that's where it's at. At least in comics. In the movie version, there was a movie version, by the way. We'll get there. So its landmass covers 1,286 square miles. So definitely not a big nation. You know, even compared to a small nation like Madagascar, it's pretty tiny.
Right.
So how far do we want to go back here? Because we've got ancient history. We've got 20th century.
Let's go 20th century.
So, well, I mean, just to touch on the ancient history real quick, it was discovered by the Europeans in the 16th century, later landed on by both Dutch and British East India Company. It became a transit point for trade between Africa and Asia, and the island was occasionally used by pirates till the French began taking control. And then eventually, after conflict with France, the British controlled the island in 18th century. So we fast forward to the 20th century. Genosha became a crown colony in the early 20th century. Became an independent state in the 1960s. Then we go to the modern era. Genosha became a thriving country, one of the richest in the world. However, the nation's wealth was due to its using mutants as slaves.
That's always fun.
Cringe. It's pretty cringe, Genosha.
Yeah, pretty cringe. Definitely bad guy behavior, but it was a crown colony, so always not exactly great places. Not run by good people often enough.
And I'm trying to think if there's any real world examples of like people that are different than the dominant class, if they've been used as slaves before. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely not a real thing.
It's definitely not a thing that still goes on, including in Russia right now.
Yeah.
Apparently. I didn't know that until recently. It's like, I guess you wouldn't expect Putin to be too worried about that, right?
I think he's A-okay with slavery.
I mean, if nothing else, he's at least distracted by his fucking, invasion bullshit that he's really hasn't done a great job.
I mean, that so much of his army is conscripts, right? That's basically slavery.
True. That is true. Yeah. And I imagine that has to play a pretty big role in how effective they've been at, considering they are supposedly they were the superior, power, military power.
Right.
And, Ukraine's been pretty admirable in holding them off.
Yeah.
To the extent that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, mutants in Genosha. So the way that they found them or identified them is by testing, which is a problem. You don't want to have people just tested for genetic differences that then it's just not good. Not in that way. Like
that's
doctors,
like one of those early genocide eugenics things, right?
Yeah. That's why
good guy behavior.
That is why HIPAA and medical privacy are so fucking important, because once you kind of cross that line and you got the government just like, hey, send us the genetic makeup of all your patients,
Well, Texas has now, they sued a healthcare system in Washington state, I believe. Maybe it was, and now they've sued one in Georgia, trying to get at their patient data specifically for all of the, spoiler alert, or big surprise rather, all the trans people that those healthcare systems service. They want to know who they are and what treatment they've received. And
holy shit. So I pulled that up real quick just so we can get some specifics on it. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, real piece of shit, tried to compel Seattle Hospital to hand over information about gender-affirming treatment to Texas children, which is, and that treatment is banned in Texas. So, it's okay. I mean, of course, we don't agree with the idea of banning that in any state at all. If that's what is decided by medical professionals that kids need. But then, the fucking audacity of but then you can't go to another state either, because you're a citizen of this state. You belong to us. Kind of that's really fucking scary.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Texas has passed laws about that for abortion care as well. That if you're Texan and you get an out-of-state abortion, they're, according to their laws, they can go after those healthcare systems over there for that.
Well, that's really cool, though, actually, that the state has decided to take such ownership over those children, because that means that they must, if the baby is born and the parents can't take care of it or whatever, that the state will then, I don't know, take care of it in really good conditions, and or if the parents just don't have a whole lot of money, but they want to keep the baby, then they'll support them with really nice safety net and everything, right?
Oh no! See, that the Texas platform of the Republican Party is that kids must be stupid and suffer needlessly at every possible step.
I mean, yeah,
as must parents.
I know. I mean, I know better than most, because I am stupid and suffer at every possible step because I'm from Texas.
That's well, yeah. Look how much better your life has been since you've not been in Texas.
It's true. It's true. I mean, literally, can't even fucking joke around about that. It's been substantial change, and just the ability to change. This is why the idea of that we have all the power to make the choices to make our lives different and better and stuff like that. It's there is some degree of truth to that, but the conditions in which we start off in play almost, just probably at least as equal a role as the choices that we make. Mm-hmm. And that's, I don't know. I remember one time I got into an argument with fucking Peter Coffin on Twitter.
Oh my God, that fucking person.
Because they were
they're a real piece of work.
I said something about we were talking about chuds basically, and whether Peter actually did make some good points at first about the material conditions that lead people down that type of mentality, that they makes them feel alienated and dejected by society and all this stuff, and that's valid to a degree. Yep. But then I said something but there's also an element of choice to it, right? Like, and Peter and then like a bunch of their fans and stuff were just kind of winning on me, like as if that's not true. Like, oh, you sound like you're pulling up by your bootstraps. I was like, I didn't fucking say that. That's not what I said at all. Like, just
it is these people suffer, right? That like, this isn't just chuds. This is just people on the right in general who don't have a lot of money or power, are conditioned by the right-wing ecosystem to take that out on other people. Instead of going, I wonder who's making me have to work all these extra hours and who's making my, living expenses so hard and who is driving up the prices of food. I wonder who's doing that. It's all about shifting the blame, right? These people who choose to be shitty make a choice and they have to be responsible for that.
Nobody's making people choose to like get on the internet and start, slurring queer people and stuff like that. Like that is a choice. And that's something you have to fucking live with, is your choice if that's something you do. But I mean, the conditions that got you in a, such a fucking low place where you're like desperate to lash out at anything because you don't really understand why your life sucks. That's not necessarily your fault.
Right. It's not your fault that you're in that situation, but how you treat other people is.
It really is that the point of all that the stuff we're talking about that generally the right does, but there's a degree of it in society in general. Right. Like no matter who's in office or whatever, like the point is they take away, it's taking away the ability to choose, right? Like, so for instance, I was getting mental health care in Texas for several years because I knew that to some degree I needed therapy and probably depression medication and stuff, but I was getting like the shittiest care possible. And, it was really, really lame. And, I went through a whole several years of like, I would go, I'm kind of depressed. And they would go, here's some pills, try these. And then I would try those and they would be like really bad for me and make things worse in some cases. And then, that's a 6-week commitment at least. Every time you start a new medication, it's like, and they just didn't even think about it. They're just like, here, whatever. And this is a doctor that like didn't remember my name every time I came back, didn't remember who I was, and would have to completely remind herself who I was. That's not good, and then coming to a state where there's like, the not the complete opposite, but like, they're still overwhelmed. There's still a lot of
they're overwhelmed, problems. But there's still some systemic support for that system where there is anti-support in that system in Texas.
Yep, it's and that's leveled my field a little bit to where I can make better choices. Nonetheless, we're way off topic. What are we doing?
We are way in the weeds.
This is what happens when you let me lead an episode. This is your podcast. Sometimes. You're supposed to be in charge.
That's my oh, I see how it is. What? I'm in charge.
Anyway, yeah. So that's was the Seattle thing. Was how we got off on that, but it is fucking upsetting. And I wonder. The last thing I'm seeing about it is from late December. So I'm wondering what's happened since then, but we'll follow up on that. Time.
Well, it does sort of tie into the Genosha thing because like the genetic testing, right, is they want all of your medical information. They want to know who you are and who your parents are and what conditions you may or may not have. And that's the state's business in Genosha. So that they can use you as forced labor.
Essentially, they want to keep you stupid, so keep you media illiterate, so that they can feed you the content that that they're being fed, right. So you can believe whatever silly dumb shit that they need you to, want you to. And it would be interesting to see. I mean, probably a little depressing, but I don't know. Maybe someday we'll get some flashback miniseries that kind of goes into more detail about life in Genosha during the slavery period or something. See how how did all of the human, the regular Homo sapiens, did they know about it? I don't know. I need to go back and read some of that stuff.
It would be interesting because I guess like when you tell me a dual tiered citizenship state in Africa, my brain is sort of predisposed to drawing a comparison to South Africa.
Yeah, and the reason, I was planning on mentioning that, but I also, full disclosure here, I'm not super familiar with apartheid and I generally know what it was and stuff, but like I don't know enough about it to speak much on it. So
yeah, it's one of those things that I am woefully ignorant on, and one day would like to know more. But
I mean, but if I was ever going to do a podcast episode where I talked about stuff that relates to it, then I would definitely like bone up on that information so that I could present a good episode, right? I would do that.
I believe
No,
so.
God damn it!
Oh shit!
I really suck.
Nah, you're fine, bro. It's okay.
It's been wild. Let me pull that up actually. For anybody that's not aware. Like me. No, like the first time I ever learned anything about it was from Lethal Weapon 2.
What was the
bad guys were South African diplomats.
Right.
They had diplomatic immunity.
Right. That's where
And then Riggs, hooked up with the diplomat's daughter. And she was trying to get out of there and shoot stuff like that. And and then at the end, Murtaugh, he freaking shot the dude and was like, my diplomatic immunity. And he's like, it's just been revoked. It shoots him. And I'm sure there was no paperwork to deal with after
None.
that.
No. Well, cops don't have to do paperwork. That's a myth.
Apartheid, especially South African English apartheid. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of definitions just in this definition. So it was a system of institutionalized racial segregation that existed in South Africa and Southwest Africa, now Namibia, from 1948 to the early 90s. Apartheid was characterized by an authoritarian political culture based on boskap, bossship or bosshood, which ensured that South Africa was dominated politically, socially, economically by the nation's minority white population. And this minoritarian system, I've never heard that word. That's fucking crazy to just process that. There was a social stratification where white citizens had the highest status, followed by Indians and coloreds, which is capitalized and has a U, of course, because it's not American. Right. And then Black Africans. The people who are from there.
Right.
The economic legacy and social effects of apartheid continue to the present day, particularly inequality. I can't imagine that's, I imagine it's very similar to, the way those things still affect us today here in the U.S. When I say us, I don't really mean me. Not directly, but yeah. Holy shit. Like Trevor Noah's talked about it a bit. Like it's honestly the most interesting thing that he talks about when he does. He's not very funny to me, but when he talks about his life growing up, it's kind of like, holy shit, because he was, he's half African, I think, half white, maybe. But he was, he lived with his white mother, I believe it was. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but it was one of his parents, I think his mother was white, and he lived with her in an area that he wasn't supposed to be, basically. Considering he's half African, in native African, he wasn't supposed to live there in this certain region or whatever, and so they had to hide him and shit. And that's crazy. So it's kind of amazing that he turned out as well adjusted as he seems to. Because wow.
Yeah, it's wild. And that two-tiered, really four-tiered system, right?
Yeah.
That's especially when you talk about compared to America, and segregation was a fucking shit show as well. Because even today you still in some ways have some de facto segregation that goes on with tribal lands and stuff, and people and tribes as far as the access to care and resources that they have.
Man. So broadly speaking, apartheid was delineated into petty apartheid, which entailed the segregation of public facilities and social events, and grand apartheid, which dictated housing and employment opportunities by race. The first law that applied was the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act in 1949, followed closely by the Immorality Amendment Act of 1950, which made it illegal for most South African citizens to marry or pursue sexual relationships across racial lines.
You know you're the bad guys when you have a like morality laws.
Yeah.
Like, those are always the good guys in any conversation, right? Like you have to.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, it's almost like guaranteed. I'm sure that he's talked about it at some point, and maybe I can find something in a minute, or if anybody else wants to help produce this podcast episode and find it for us. I do apologize. It deserves more than a time than I put into it, and I feel like a complete piece of shit. So in that way, I'm actually going to commit to doing a video about it where I'll like actually
cool.
And just kind of, something 10-minute video where I kind of go into the, the broad strokes.
Well, the PR that makes him way cooler than what's his nuts, Bill Maher.
Yeah, I mean, nothing, like literally nothing against Trevor Noah. I don't have anything against him as a person.
Yeah.
It's just, man, he had a rough slot, like coming up after Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, you're going to be the new host. You're going to be the host after Jon Stewart leaves. Like, oh man, he was set up for failure basically. But
right, and
I guess some people do like him. I don't know.
I know some people who like him. It's just he suffers for me personally of I don't watch TV, so like I don't know, the bits I've seen here and there, he seems intelligent and mostly funny.
Nothing. Yeah, he's intelligent. He's a smart guy. He's got, like I said, the lived experience that informs a lot of what he says, and that's valuable. But just the humor aspect, I'm just like, man. Maybe it's because I've also kind of like continued drifting leftward in the intervening years, and that show is still more, I guess,
liberal,
aimed at where I was as opposed to where I'm at. Well. Jon Stewart ain't perfect.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, like we've all got, everyone's got different tastes, right?
Jon Stewart's going to be back on Mondays, hosting the Daily Show
and
until the election.
And to Trevor Noah's credit, I'll watch that as much as I watch Trevor Noah's.
I think I'll probably tune in a little bit and just see. I mean, I watched some of his show on Apple Plus before.
I watched his Apple Plus show that got canceled for reasons.
I think it was he quit it. I think he kind of killed the contract for something they were trying to do, maybe, from what I remember.
They didn't want him to do an episode about either China or a Chinese company.
I think you're right, yeah. Wow.
And Apple put the kibosh on it, and then he quit.
Yep. It's hey, he's got integrity, and that's cool. Okay, back to Genosha. I don't think there's any Jon Stewart here after that, but okay. So yeah, government tested citizens. Any mutants were stripped of basic rights. Mutants in Genosha were the property of the state, and children who were positively identified with the mutant gene were put through a process which stripped them of free will, and they were made into mutates. So if you've ever seen like images from X-Men comics of there's certain characters that have been around before. They're like, yeah, I should just pull up an image, I guess, but like they're identifiable. They're made to be identifiable. They have tattoos that have been forced onto them, and they're, I think, bald generally. They all their hair shaved off, or maybe genetically changed. I don't know.
Yes.
But they basically they tailor the genetics of these mutants to certain jobs that they want.
So eugenics, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But sci-fi X-Men eugenics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, honestly, like a eugenicist probably would read this and be like, "Oh, fuck, that's the dream right there, man."
Right. That is the dream, right? Is like build your own human.
Yep. Oh, that's not very good resolution. Nonetheless, so developed by the Sugar Man and given to the Gene Engineer, the process was capable of modifying certain mutant abilities in order to fulfill specific labor shortages. So there's a Sugar Man, probably one of the biggest pieces of shit in mutant lore.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think we've actually talked about him before. I think
We have talked, like, it's funny how when we talk about like Apocalypse, right, and how we're like, he was, you know, a fucker, but now we're like, yeah, fuck, man, Apocalypse is cool now, and he is cool now. I fucking love him. But like, if they tried to do a redemption arc for Sugar Man, nah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, no, they made sure to like they killed him off like right before the Krakoa thing started.
Mhm.
Bishop found his ass. Like just,
that would be a good person to find his ass.
Yep. Found him, and even Bishop said he's like, man, you were basically said you're a fucking garbage being, but you didn't deserve this, you know. But he maybe did, maybe he did, Bishop.
Maybe, yeah, I think so.
So the foundations of Genoshan society were upset due to efforts of outside mutant interests. I wonder if these are any mutants of note that they're being referred to. Some members of X-Men, including Wolverine, Rogue, and their ally, Madeline Pryor, were kidnapped by Genoshan magistrates under the order of the Gene-Engineer. Later, the X-Men and their allies rescued their teammates Storm, Meltdown, Richter, and Wolfsbane from Genoshan brainwashing, toppling the government after discovering their alliance with former X-Factor ally turned mutant hater Cameron fucking Hodge.
Fuck that guy.
And that Havoc was one of the magistrates. Havoc was made into a magistrate. I remember that now. Magistrates being kind of like the mutant police force or the anti-mutant police force,
right?
Which I'm sure that like the regular police force also serves some of that purpose, but
right.
Magistrates were like the specialists. That's true. That's true. But apparently he was also involved with the regular timeline Genosha, which I didn't know that.
Huh. Guy gets around.
It would make some sense. Oh yeah, because Havoc had his mind wiped by the Siege Perilous. Havoc himself, woken from his conditioning by his brother Cyclops, killed Cameron Hodge in the process. Based. Good job.
Fuck yeah.
Another ally, a member of the New Mutants named Warlock, was killed by Cameron Hodge. The news of his death was broadcast worldwide. A new Genoshan regime that promised better treatment of mutants was put in place after Hodge's destruction. A period of general turmoil and a number of attacks by superhumans, including Magneto's acolytes, who were unwilling to forgive the former Genoshan government for its crimes against mutants, followed. That would be, like, I'm sure there's like a couple of interesting statements made in the comics where that took place, but like, I imagine that if that same story was told today, it would be very interesting. Just like the conversation that would be had about, are the acolytes right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That would be that'd be a very interesting conversation to have these days.
Because yeah, I mean, had the government really changed all that much, kind of thing? Let's see. The government X Factor. So this is after the X Factor had changed from original X-Men to now you've got Havoc as a leader, and you got Polaris and Wolfsbane and Strong Guy, the coolest name of any character. He's a strong guy. But yeah, they later returned to the island to help restore peace between its government and a rogue group of superpowered beings that had fled the island. The Genoshan government tried to undo the ill effects visited upon Wolfsbane. Okay, so there was some effort there.
An attempt was made.
We'll see how that worked out for him. So, unfortunately for Genosha's new government, Fabian Cortez had need of their country. Well, if Fabian Cortez needs it.
I guess if he needs it, yeah, who's to say otherwise?
Who, by the way, really good redemption kind of thing in Legion of X, I think it was.
Yeah. I haven't got around to Legion of X yet, so
it's good shit. Let's see. Seeking a safe zone to hide in after betraying Magneto and the Acolytes, Cortez used his natural charisma to rouse the Genoshan mutates into an uprising against their human oppressors. The existing government was horribly murdered. Okay.
Yeah.
Street fighting broke out between the mutates and the magistrates. Cortez was eventually killed, but the damage was done. Genosha was at war with itself. Cool. And then comes this guy. He's going to solve these problems. Magneto.
Oh yeah, a guy whose plans always work out.
The United Nations ceded the island nation to the powerful mutant Magneto. Wow. They just gave it to him. They're like, here, man, just take this fucking... We don't want to deal with this. We don't want to deal with you, so you both just go fuck off somewhere.
I'm curious as to like what point in Magneto's character development that was over the years, because like depending where you are in his like how they're portraying him in X-Men stories at that time, like is that like Neville Chamberlain, like, yeah, we're gonna give you the Sudetenland, Germany. I'm sure that will perfectly not start a war across the whole planet.
You know, I mean, I could take the time to look if you want.
Yeah, I would be interested as to like what they were.
Oh,
what the Magneto, the version of Magneto we're getting in this story.
So this was in Magneto Rex number 1 through 3. Never heard of this title, but I can tell by looking at the cover exactly what era it's from because it's got the 3D X logo, and I know what era that is. That is going to be late 90s, right around or during or maybe a little bit after the old crash, the old boom or bust.
Yeah,
sorry.
it's sort of right after that era.
I associate this 3DX with that era, like it's just when it's from, as well as like some of the art style being a little bit too, like it's good, like I mean it's like it's competent art, but it's just a little too, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, but yeah. So this happened in this, and that was by Joe Pruitt, Brandon Peterson.
Huh.
This is Ascendance was the title of the story. He arrives in Genosha and assumes control despite worldwide controversy. He's attacked by the magistrate forces, but is saved by a mutate who takes him to meet with the existing leadership. He incorporates this diverse group of Genoshan nationals into his new cabinet, though he truly trusts none of them. Well, of course not. Quicksilver discovers that Amelia Vought has been spying on him under his father's commands and demands to be taken to Magneto. Surprised to learn of his new role, Genosha, and decides to look into the state of affairs there. And he's captured by the Zealot, the leader of a mutate rebellion that opposes Magneto's ascension to the throne. He recruits Fabian Cortez into his cabinet to help him maintain his former power levels. Rogue arrives and try to talk some sense into Magneto and discovers the Zealot and his plan to sacrifice Pietro as the opening salvo in his war to reclaim Genosha from Magneto.
So sounds like not a good guy Magneto era.
No, I mean no. He definitely so this was I'm trying to think. Wait, was this Joseph? No.
That's the Magneto clone, isn't it?
Well, yeah, so this would have been after
that.
The Mind Wipe. Okay, so this is May 1999. Was when the release date was March 99. I guess that, yeah, I guess that's after they did the whole Joseph thing or whatever, and like, because I was trying to imagine what the timeline was. Really, I fell off reading X-Men comics pretty much after Fatal Attractions, and then I did read some of the Phalanx Covenant stuff, but like after that, I don't have a whole deep well of knowledge on the lore. So like I know that Professor X wiped his mind after he did the whole Wolverine, here's our Wolverine moment. Which was when he pulled adamantium out of Wolverine's body.
Oh, okay, that's this. Okay. So definitely
that happened in like 93 or 95, I think maybe.
Okay.
So that was X-Men number 25. So and then yeah. And then this at the sorry.
We're definitely in like bad guy Magneto territory. So there definitely could be a like the UN is committing an act of appeasement to give this like.
Now I remember. Now I remember.
fucked up country to him.
So I had recently been reading some of the Onslaught stuff. And
that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
well, you should read Way of X.
Yeah, on my to-do list.
Anyway, yeah, so like, yeah, in Onslaught, Reborn, no, I think maybe it was the 10-year anniversary thing. Basically, you know what? I don't know the exact dates of things, so I'm just not going to go down this path. But nonetheless, you end up with
okay. So there was the UN went to war with Magneto, and this was the result of that. Okay, so yeah, this is definitely like full-on bad guy Magneto.
I mean, pretty much, yeah, I guess so.
So it's one of those things that like when you talk about a character like Magneto, like he's filled so many roles in the comics of like good guy, bad guy, anti-hero, and sort of his motivation and emotional state sort of change as the plot demands for what they need him to do. And so like it's definitely like I don't think we've had a bad guy Magneto in a while, but this is sort of towards the end of that era.
And he's about to get a little bit worse. But I mean, after what's about to happen, maybe it's a little bit understandable that he kind of lost his shit. So yeah, how this all ends up basically is around the same time, the legacy virus, which had been wiping mutants out, it was cured by Colossus. Sacrificed himself,
right?
Or did he? No, he did. They just got brought back by.
He came back.
Yeah, Ord of Breakworld. That's neither here nor there. That's on Breakworld. But so yeah, I remember that being maybe one of the last issues that I ever just like bought and read and was like, oh, but I think maybe it depressed me too much or something.
Fair.
I don't know. But there's a lot of high drama happening in those days. Like the 90s threw so much shit at the X-Men that then had to be followed up on to some degree. And so you've just got a lot of weighty shit happening left and right all the time. Really tragic stuff to a lot of characters. And that included that. But I mean, the legacy virus was cured. And what that allowed to happen was a freshly healthy army of Genoshan mutants under Magneto's rule. So you're ending this period off with Magneto. He basically won the war against the magistrates. He's got his island nation of mutants. There's something like 16 million mutants on it. That's a lot. There was a time whenever mutants were pretty rare. But
yeah. Well, they're about to get rarer.
Indeed, because the next era involves Wild Sentinels, Cassandra Nova.
That is Charles Xavier's evil alien twin sister
that he consumed in utero.
Yeah.
He basically, he psychically killed her, consumed her, or something like that. Yeah, just like an epic battle of fetuses in the astral plane.
It was a psychic abortion.
It was. Or is it? Was it regicide? Is that no? What's the name of it? Whenever a sibling kills a sibling.
Oh, I have no idea.
I forget. But it's a psychic one of those, and an abortion for sure. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. All right. So the entire island of Genosha, reduced to rubble, and its mutant population was slain by Cassandra Nova's wild sentinels. There were very few survivors. Many evacuated, and the Brotherhood of Mutants turned one of the sentinels into a memorial statue. Foreign military forces threw up a cordon around the island. No one got in, and those trying to leave were fired upon. Cool.
Always
that last
fun.
part is just like a little fuck you, It's kind of like what Abbott's doing now, a little bit.
Yeah, basically.
Fratricide, thank you. That
There
does
you
make
go.
sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, she gets hers in the end, but then she doesn't again too, because she was a Marauder more recently. I just realized I haven't read that arc in the Marauders, but she does become one by like, for whatever reason, they have to go do something, and in order to do it, Cassandra Nova is the only one that knows how to do the thing or whatever. I only read the synopsis. They bring her back. I don't think she's still around, so I'm not sure what happened, but we'll see.
All right. Well, you were useful, blam.
Right. All right. So then we enter the House of M era. And this is where most of my familiarity with Genosha was that it was empty and it was destroyed, and that's where Magneto took Wanda whenever the X-Men and the Avengers came together to talk about killing her.
Right.
So yeah, after her
that's sort
nervous
of the
breakdown,
House of M era.
It's exactly the House of M era.
Yeah.
Magneto snatched Wanda from her battle with her fellow Avengers and brought her to Genosha, where he asked Xavier to restore her sanity. But Xavier couldn't do it, couldn't help her, and concerned for the threat to reality that Wanda posed, he consulted the Avengers and the X-Men about what to do with his daughter, Magneto's daughter. Their decision was rendered moot, as by the time they reached Genosha, reality altered around them, changing into the world ruled by the House of M. While conventional reality was eventually restored, it came at a high price, as thousands, if not millions, of Earth's mutant population lost their powers or died in the process, leaving only a few hundred mutants alive and empowered. So yeah, you went from, upwards of 16, maybe close to 20 million mutants globally, then down to just 198, I think was the number after M Day.
Yeah, it was the 198.
Yeah. And those were the dark times.
Okay, dark, metaphorically, narratively, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of wheel spinning. I remember that.
No, so much wheel spinning.
She was depowered in a volcano. What? That just seems cruel.
There was a lot of those where, like, I remember, like, the Blob was, like, still had all, like, the excess skin and stuff when he was depowered. So he's just, like, this immobile skin sack.
Oh, man. Absorbing lore. That's a superpower of its own.
It's called being a nerd.
So,
nerd gene.
But hey, look, that is not the end of Genosha. It depends on if we want to continue on past this point, or with specifically Genosha, or if we should pivot over to a couple of examples more. But
I think I know that someone like Celine does a bunch of like weird necromancy shit. And
there's the Necrosha area.
Army. Yeah.
Which, and that's why I'm saying we could stop here, or at least maybe we'll come back to this if we have time. But like after this, I don't think there's a whole lot of like allegorical meat on this bone anymore.
Right.
Until I guess, no, even saying anything about that would be pretty hideous. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke. Apparently my brain was trying to about Necrosha and like, well, maybe if in real life
nope.
Don't do it, Dane. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah, a lot of depressing shit, and that's before Necrosha. True. It just kind of became one of these locations where like sometimes there would be need to go back there or whatever. For example, there was some pretty cool battles in Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men. That's where freaking Professor X drove a semi-truck into the danger room.
That's really cool.
Because she came to life as a person, as a robot, and
danger.
Yeah, a bunch of battles happening there, and the Wild Sentinel was actually activated there again, and that was scary. But I think it was because this was like the beginning of hinting that Kitty Pryde was capable of more than anybody ever knew, because she, had always had trouble. Like she would disrupt electronics, which is a useful thing when it's useful,
right?
But it's, and at this point, I think is whenever she actually was able to not just disrupt and fuck up the electronics, but she was able to control it, I think.
Right.
Which was a big move.
Because the Joss Whedon run sort of ended with her phasing that bullet through the earth.
Yep, she literally saved the Earth and ended up just hurling through space in a bullet forever. Well, I don't know how she ever came back. I need to look into that. How did she come back?
Oh, God. How does she come back?
Because it was like set up, the way that it was set up was like, she's just nothing we can do. She's gone now. And, you know,
That
but
was
yeah,
that like bleak era of X-Men that I just kind of tuned out of.
it was right at the beginning of the decimation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was weird. It was a weird thing because Astonishing was canon, and it was ongoing at the same time that they did House of M. And so, but then like there was a good year or so between the first run of Astonishing and the second, where they took a break or whatever. And so when they came back, that's what it was. By the time that Joss Whedon came back, he had to just kind of address the whole depowered mutant population thing while still just like telling the story he wanted to tell. And I read it not too long ago, and I was like, that's weird. Like, I mean, it's fine, you know, but it's just kind of noticeable that they barely address it. It's so that he can just tell the story he wanted to tell.
So
and
apparently Magneto pulls her out of the bullet at some point.
Okay.
But she has to wear like a containment suit because she's still like partially phased.
Yeah, imagine. That was a weird. That's the first arc of Astonishing is really, really good. Second arc is also pretty good, but there's some weird choices made. Like that's the one where Cyclops doesn't have his powers, and he actually uses a gun at one point. He's just like shoots, but it's like you just got to read it if you haven't read it. It's actually worth reading. I'm not saying it's bad, but it is very weird choices made.
There's some weirdness with it. I remember tuning out of it. It was just like,
oh yeah. He that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was one of the things
like
that
right
honestly,
around the time of that show. The one everyone was obsessed with over but canceled.
Firefly.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was one of the things that made people like demand like he was the guy to direct the Avengers, because he had proven, you know, with Astonishing X-Men, with Firefly, with Buffy, that he was very, you know, I got to praise the guy where I got to. He was very good at handling, you know, a large roster of characters and make sure they all get their own, you know, moments and growth, and you know, he's just good at juggling that. And that's
unfortunately he was bad at handling people, and we'll
real life people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the art was fantastic, and that's another thing that was John Cassaday, and he's something's happened.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I wanted to tell you guys about Vanport, Oregon.
Yes. So this is our real life Genosha.
Vanport, Oregon is a place that I had no idea existed until my girlfriend told me about it. Before that, though, there's some important context to understand, and this might be you know, might surprise some of you. Definitely did me. Let me see. I'm going to find the exact date of this actually. Okay, so
Oh, it's Bob. We've got organized Bob Chaos in the chat.
Bob Chaos.
How's it going, Bob?
Trying to find where this law ended real quick so that I can give the full context here.
Yeah, while you're looking up, that I have a funny anecdote. When the news about Joss Whedon broke publicly, someone was like, what they should do with him is just like chain him up somewhere where he can't interact with anyone and is just brought in food and writing assignments. It's just like, wow, so much of the stuff he's done is great and I love it, but like, wow, he's a piece of shit. We've got Bob of the Old Ways and Bob Chaos, so we are double A Bob.
And we know we haven't seen them both at the same time before, so it could be the same guy.
Which one of you has the goatee? Because then we'll know which one's the mirror universe, Bob. We are the name.
Okay, so
We have encountered both Bobs.
Oregon, which is in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, for those that aren't geographically aware of that, which is, and Portland is here. You probably heard of Portland. It's a very woke, progressive, lefty, communist, whatever, it's all those things. It's really kind of like...
It's one of those cities that in 2020, your Republican uncle insisted burn to the ground.
Yeah, it no longer exists. Like,
There's
I'm sitting
no
here...
longer a Portland. Dane lives in an imaginary bubble.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my apartment is fine. That's the only one that was okay. So.
Oh, okay. That's good.
No, it was literally like a square block of stuff there was like a fire happening in a trash can, and then like briefly to a building that became, oh, Portland's burning down.
I know someone who insisted Milwaukee burned down, and they live like 2 blocks from, like, they live in a suburb, but they live like 2 blocks from Milwaukee. And I'm like, really? Like, what's across the street?
So, everybody knows about the South and their yikesy history with race, to say the least. Pretty
so
cringe.
They lost a war about it.
Yeah, there's a whole war. It was not very civil, despite names being applied. Oregon was a whites-only state until the early 20th century.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. If you like right now, I was trying to think the other day how many black people I've seen in Portland since I've been here, and I've been here like almost a decade now. It's probably more than 30, which it's 30, but like that's not much. You know what I mean? Like, just I'm talking about like have seen, period. Like, there's still not that many.
No.
But it's at least not illegal to be black here now. Presumably,
that is an improvement.
It was so the law was not repealed by voters until 1926, but it was essentially the law was made moot with the 14th Amendment. So, yeah. Prior to that, though, is like originally the original punishment for being, black in Oregon was lashes. And pretty quickly, though, hey, they came to their senses and they were like, that's a little bit too harsh. Let's just do forced labor.
Oh, we're just back to doing slavery.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But they made it a crime to be there, so then it's legal under the 14th Amendment. Yeah.
States' rights to what? States' rights to what? It's always important to ask that question.
It's a very important question to ask.
Okay, so Vanport, with that context in mind, sometimes referred to as Vanport City or Kaiserville, was a city of wartime public housing in Multnomah County, Oregon. Multnomah County being the county I live in. United States, between the contemporary Portland city boundary and the Columbia River. It was destroyed in the 1948 Columbia River flood and not rebuilt. It sat on what is currently the site of Delta Park and the Portland International Raceway. So the reason it's interesting is because it essentially became, out of necessity of the war, World War II, it was kind of like the foot in the door for black people being okay to live here, more or less. So Vanport construction started in 1942 to house workers at the wartime Kaiser shipyards in Portland and Vancouver, Washington. For anybody not aware, Vancouver, Washington, not Canada, British Columbia, whatever. It's like a 15-minute drive from Portland. Essentially, it is Portland over the state line.
Right.
It was called Vanport as a portmanteau of Vancouver and Portland. Hey, that's clever.
So funny. I'm sure the story ends well.
It's great ending. It actually is not as bad as it could have been. So, was home to 40,000 people, and about 40% of them were African American, making it Oregon's second largest city at the time and the largest public housing project in the nation. So it was essentially an entire city that was public housing projects. And that was all well and good whenever we were at war. But after the war, Vanport lost more than half of its population, dropping to 18,500. And guess what the racial makeup of the ones left behind were?
It's all the black people who couldn't go anywhere else.
Right.
And it was illegal for them to go anywhere else.
Right. They're not. Yeah. Let's see. After the war, lost more than half the population. Wartime workers left the area. However, there was also an influx of returning World War II veterans. And in order to attract veterans and their families, the Housing Authority of Portland opened a college named the Vanport Extension Center, which is now kind of cool. A little bit of history here is I didn't know this. It's now Portland State University.
Oh, interesting.
It was dramatically destroyed at 4:05 p.m. on May 30th, 1948, when a 200-foot section of a railroad berm holding back the Columbia River collapsed during a flood, killing 15 people. The city was underwater by nightfall, leaving 17,500 of its inhabitants homeless. So compared to Genosha, I mean, 15 people is a tragedy. One person's a tragedy, but it's considerably less than 16 million. And it also wasn't done like on purpose by a hate monger. It just the conditions for where the city rested were kind of done kind of out of hatred. Because it's like you don't build. They didn't care that they were just like, oh, whatever, we got to put people up in these puts. You know what I'm saying? Like it's projects, housing projects. It's going to be black people living here. Let's put it up over here near the river. Who cares how firm the ground is underneath them? Who cares how likely it is to be, it's kind of exactly the same thing as another city that more recently had similar situation, New Orleans. Mm-hmm. Essentially is a bowl. If you're New Orleans was, I don't know what the makeup of it is now. I'm sure it's still basically the same, but it was a bowl, and surrounded by water, and all it took was, a hurricane to drown the city.
New Orleans, for those who don't know, is actually below sea level.
Yeah.
It is kept, we'll call it dry for some definition of the word, by a series of levees and dams that keeps water mostly out. And like there's no graveyards. There are graveyards, but the coffins and caskets are above ground because when it floods, and it floods all the time, you will get interesting events.
That's a very interesting metric for time that you're using there, by the way.
The warp standard, yeah.
Yeah, the warp standard.
And I will make it a threesome.
Michael Dorn is always welcome to make it a threesome on this show. Always.
Sorry. So you got 17,500 homeless people. The city was a hub of transient laborers from all corners of the country. Few residents had any long-term connections with each other, and little opportunity or interest to build them. So the temporary nature of the new city contributed to an overall sense of insecurity and anxiety among residents, and the lack of businesses and recreation opportunities contributed to a sense of distrust. So there's no community. There was no, a real local commerce. I guess they just had to go into Portland and Vancouver.
And try not to get lashed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at this point,
labor.
Well, at this point, it was no longer a law. Just by this point, because the law existed for so long, that it still, there was not many black people here.
Right. Yeah. That the law had, even though the law was no longer the law, its effect had done its damage.
Yeah, it's almost like these things have some kind of effect that's like within the system, that's like a systemic effect or something.
Well, it's also like there's this whole weird legal theory about like the impact of laws over time and how they affect different racial groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well, it's like being critical of those laws.
Yeah, it's very critical of those racist laws.
The laws, being critical of racist laws. It's like a theory about that, right?
Yeah, it's a theory about that. Yeah.
Okay. They should come up with a cool name for that.
They really should. I bet some people would love it. They would just love it.
Oh dear. All right, so got some numbers here. Got some numbers. This is interesting. So before, sorry. In 1940, so before Vanport, a couple of years before it was built, about a year or so before we entered the war and whatnot, Due to exclusionary racial laws, the state had a population of fewer than 1,800 black people in 1940. By 1946, more than 15,000 people, black people, lived in the Portland area. So that's a 6-year gap. Go from not quite 2,000 in the state to 15,000 in Portland. And I imagine there were just all of the white people were like cool with that. I'm sure there wasn't any kind of like reactionary shit going on with that.
Can I take a quick aside? I have to take care of some business.
Yeah.
In tradition of your channel. Shut up, Bob.
What did he say?
Take a look.
RCT. Racial criticism theory.
As someone on this channel, I am using my Zod given right to tell Bob to shut up.
See, I was thinking a better name would be like theoretical racial
criticism. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we could avoid any kind of problems with that.
Right. You two can figure that out. All right. Sorry, I just had to get that out of my system. It did not. No, it also didn't work well for the people on it.
Yeah, I mean, really, it seems like just in general, the Oregon Trail is known for a lot of bad times and a lot of diarrhea.
A lot of dysentery. Yeah. So there's a funny, like remake of the Oregon Trail video game, called the Oregon Trail, where you are trying to outrun the zombie apocalypse.
Oh God.
By fleeing like Washington D.C. across the country.
Oh.
But if you take too long, you get nuked.
Cool.
Because they're gonna nuke America.
It's probably a better fate than like dysentery, to be honest.
I would probably take that over dying of dysentery. Yeah.
Vaporize me with a nuke. Don't make me shit my guts out, please.
Please, yeah. Well, that's a win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Bob. I'm not going to take it.
Oregon.
And look, as an Oregonian, I have to correct you. It's not Oregon, it's Oregon. Okay. No, I don't have to correct you. That's what they do here. They will do that if you
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like here because Wisconsin uses a lot of like Native American names for places. And you get people and a lot of French names too. You get people who come here and like they will just like stammer and then sort of look at you in panic, like, how do I say this word? Like Cudahy. Look at how Cudahy.
There's
Google Cudahy and see if it's spelled the way you think it is.
There's a fucking street in downtown Portland, not even far from where I'm at, called. So it's spelled Couch. Okay.
Okay.
Which it's couch, right? No.
Yeah.
And people will correct you like you're a fucking idiot if you say a couch because it's cooch. Yeah.
They're fucking with you, right?
No, this is legit. That is it. That is actually yeah.
I don't know that I can go to this place anymore. Let's not go to Oregon. It sounds like
I feel like I feel like Oregon's getting a bad rap. Let me just give you some good trivia.
Sure.
You know in The Simpsons how the running gag is Springfield's like what state is it in? They never really say. It's it's actually just kind of Portland.
Oh, really?
That's where what's his name? Matt Groening, he's from the area. There are names, a lot of street names like within a few square blocks of each other. Some of them overlap and are next to each other and stuff. So there's like Skinner, Lovejoy, like it's where he got a lot of inspiration for names. So Yep, it's true. Flanders, legit a fucking Flanders. Like a Flanders, Lovejoy, Skinner, all within maybe even I don't know, I can pull up a map. I can prove it.
That's crazy.
But we did get our Wisconsin mentioning. So good job.
We did it. Good work,
Yeah.
team.
Good job. So I'm trying to see, look here and see what else I should mention. So the Vanport flood parallels the more recent Hurricane Katrina disaster. In both cases, public officials led the population to believe that the damage would be slight.
Oh, Jesus, of course.
And in both cases, the government response to the disaster was harshly criticized. And in both cases, critics, somewhat reasonably, attributed the poor response to racist attitudes on the part of officials who pointedly neglected to respond appropriately to the destruction of a community that had a relatively large number of Black residents.
Right.
However, many dispute the role of racism, pointing to the transformation of Vanport by the influx of World War II veterans and their families and official commitment to the area shown by the establishment at Vanport of the only state college. Just a bunch of bullshit. Like, this doesn't.
Right. Well, when you're talking about, like, especially this time, there probably is a lot of influx of World War II vets, because a lot of African American servicemen didn't get the benefits of the GI Bill until way after World War II. And so they got fucked and were just kind of left wherever in the country. And it was on their own dime to try and get somewhere. So if you were a Black service member who your deployment ended and you were on the East Coast, you were on the East Coast.
Well, so then there's other aspects to, like, the fact that it being a public housing and there's a lot of poor people living there. That so there was a radio alert issued the night before the flood. It was not a mandatory evacuation, and so residents generally just moved their belongings into attics and upper floors. So they thought, maybe we'll get some water a couple of feet in the bottom floor or something. It was much worse than that. And
just
then one of the major contributing factor to the lack of voluntary evacuation. So there probably was quite a few people that wanted to leave, but they couldn't because they relied on public transportation.
And they got closed down at a certain time.
And so then you got, another issue of being poor is you can't just hop in your car and go.
Did this inspire them? Like, because I know Portland is sort of famous now for having a very good public transportation system. Is this sort of, did this influence that?
Well, this
or
is
am I
not
being optimistic?
No, I mean, because so this was between Vancouver and Portland, and there's not any metro. I think there's some bus that you can take between the two, but there's no just connecting system of public transit. So Vancouver has its own stuff because it's also in another state. Portland has its own stuff.
Right.
So on the morning of Memorial Day, May 30th, 1948, the Housing Authority of Portland issued the following statement. This is before. Wait, let's see. This was before the walls collapsed, basically. They said, you are safe at present. Actually, it says, dikes are safe at present. You will be warned if necessary. You will have time to leave. Don't get excited. That was the morning. And then about 4:17 p.m. Was when the Spokane, Portland, and Seattle railway berm busted, sending a 10-foot wall of water into the area of Vanport. The break happened at the old railroad cut that had been filled in. Wow.
And that was the end of Vanport.
Yeah. So thankfully, one positive thing, I guess, was the population overall was 18,500, but because of the holiday, many residents were away from their homes for the day, so that probably contributed to some lives not being lost.
That's a plus. Because the actual death toll was pretty low, wasn't it?
Officially, there was only 15 deaths.
Officially.
So, yeah. And then on June 11th, so that's like a full what? It's a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Not bad. Harry S. Truman, president. He's president. I don't know if you heard of him before. He flew to Portland to examine the damage. Cool. And the recovery was assisted by Vanport College and the Red Cross. Vanport led Portland and Oregon in integrating black people. The first black teachers and policemen in the state were hired in Vanport during the war years. One of those black teachers, Martha Jordan, later became the first black teacher hired by Portland Public Schools.
Oh, wow.
It eased the integration. Vanport's destruction eased the integration of a large African-American population into North and Northeast Portland. Indeed, some black leaders argued that the flood was ultimately beneficial for the city's black community. Vanport argued National Urban League director Lester Granger was a nasty, segregated ghetto where Negroes lived in the same patterns as they did in the South. The flood that wiped out the district, he continued, was a benefit in that it allowed black people to further integrate into Portland society. And I apologize as I said that word. I wish I didn't have to, but I did.
It's a quote.
It is. And I was reading and wasn't processing. If I would have caught it, I wouldn't have said it anyway, even though it is a quote. I don't like saying it.
Right. I don't. Yeah. I mean, our Jackie Robinson episode for all of the like long, awkward pause.
Wait. What do you mean? Oh. What?
Oh, I think they're talking about flooding the tunnels in Palestine.
Yeah, that relates to this.
I'm not sure. These sound like different things because this was a natural disaster, and
right.
What's going on in Palestine is a man-made disaster.
So, I mean, the parallels exist only in that there was flooding.
And
that's about where it ends. Like in this one, 15 people died. We could say that probably a lot more have and will continue to die in relation to the flooding of those. But that's another episode.
Well, and the racism and colonialism involved in all of it is present. But I feel like, these are different things are different.
Yeah, some things are different than other things. It's true. Well, there you go. That's that's what came to mind thinking about Genosha, and obviously, you talk about Genosha, and you talk about generally the what was ultimately a Holocaust. The Wild Sentinels, spurred on by Cassandra Nova. There's a pretty specific parallel that we could look at there. That being the actual Holocaust.
Right.
All things are the same. Oh, hot take, Bob. Shut up, Bob. Shut up. I think he just likes to show up here, and he's like, I haven't been told shut up lately. I got to hear that again.
He's got like a thing for it.
He's tweaking his nipples right now. He's like, oh yeah, tell me to shut up. No, you know what? He's rebelling.
Why did you give me that image?
He's rebelling right now is what he's doing, because he got another comment in the same vein of that one that we looked at that one time, or it might be the same person. I don't know. I don't know, Bob, if you're going to want to look at that on stream this week or whatever, but that's a trip. This person went out of their way to try to convince Bob, first of all, with vague threats of doxing. Not even vague. He's just like, I got all your information. I'm not going to dox you though. That's messed up. But he's like, I found your information. And then he's like, I'm going to see if I can find Dane's information next. And then he goes on to talk about it was like a long ass comment where he's like trying to tell Bob, you're too good for them. They get you talking about stuff you don't need to be doing. They drag you down. Dane drags you down.
Wow. What are people? Why are people?
I don't know. I mean, literally, we do a show every week where we talk for a couple hours about stuff, and then otherwise we're doing our own shit. I don't understand. I
have no fucking clue.
I read the whole thing, Bob. Wow. But yeah, it's the kind of, it's just this. It honestly, it kind of reads like maybe mental illness or addiction, or maybe a combination of the two, because it's just somebody who's very much in their own world, but even more so than your average chud, kind of that. I don't know. It's interesting and disturbing at the same time, and I hope that person's doing okay.
I hope they have a nice, calm Sunday.
Easy like Sunday morning. So here we are at 2 hours. What do we want to do?
I don't know. I just got back from a work trip, so I'm kind of tired. So a short one ain't so bad.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
People can get back to their families, enjoy the rest of their Sundays. See, Mark has just arrived. Hi, Mark. Long time no see.
If you want to learn more about black exclusion laws in Oregon, it's interesting to, because it just goes to show that, there's still, like, you might not be aware of this, but like the largest cluster of militia and far right fucking bullshit in the country is in the Pacific Northwest. Like that's the Pacific Northwest, other than the South, was where the KKK was thriving at in its heyday in the 20th century. It's just kind of fucked up and upsetting that the Pacific Northwest is generally kind of the South outside the South.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bullshit here, and so that's why, election time of 2020. If you don't remember, whenever there's like all the trucks chasing Biden's bus down the highway and shit, and in Portland, a lot of the chuds from out in the country and out in the more rural parts of Oregon, because there's a lot of it. There's a whole state that's not Portland.
Right, and the whole rest of the
there's Portland, there's Salem.
Yeah, I remember
they're both
that is
pretty liberal, but other than that,
right. Well, it's like whenever you listen to the right wingers around here talk about how Wisconsin would be a red state if it wasn't for Milwaukee and Madison, and never mind that all of the other metropolitan areas in the city are pretty, I wouldn't say left leaning, but certainly more likely to vote for Democrats than not. But also that's where all the people live. All the people are Democrats. Yeah, okay. Sure, whatever.
That's why, that's why it's funny when they're always trying to share those maps. Look, it's all red. So much red in the country. That means we're all Republicans, right?
Right. Yeah. No, that's not how that works. We probably should talk about because Mark brings up the KKK in Indiana. We should talk about the second Ku Klux Klan at some point. I think that would be an informative
we should
conversation, because people think of the KKK as this Southern institution.
Yeah.
And it would be a good. Oh, you know what we could do?
I already got it. Hey, I'm going to say it before you do.
Okay.
Superman smashes the Klan.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's go.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. Is that next week?
Do we want to do a 2 in a row racism thing? I guess it wasn't so bad. There wasn't hateful racism. There wasn't a hate crimes in this one, I guess. So
this is systemic, but I think that we could talk Superman smashes the Klan. We could talk about the radio drama that inspired it.
The fact that Superman actually did smash the Klan in real life.
Yep. So yeah, Superman, the Man of Steel, helped decrease the power of the KKK
significantly, from what I understand.
Significantly.
I'm gonna do some more looking into it. I'm gonna make up for this week. I'm gonna really fucking dig into this shit. Well, yeah, it does. It doesn't like those guys. So it also kind of seems like it's a bit of a crossover episode, maybe. With the old comics versus fascism.
It definitely is.
So, yeah, fun times. And I was about to ask you if you have anything you want to promote. I guess not.
No.
All right.
I guess I do have one thing coming up to promote, and I'll probably talk about this at the end of the next month's worth of shows. But for those of you who enjoy some tabletop gaming and are in the Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois area, the Midwest, GaryCon is a gaming convention going on March 21st to the 24th.
Ooh.
I will be there running Pathfinder.
So you're driving your Nissan? Is that what you're saying?
No. I am running the role-playing game Pathfinder.
Oh.
We don't have a Nissan.
Joke never gets old to me.
I know you love that joke, but They run all sorts of games there. It's in celebration of Gary Gygax's life, who's the creator of D&D, even though he's kind of a shitty person. His kid's cool, the one that runs it. The other kid, less cool. We don't talk about him. I think we did talk about him at one point on the show, actually. But it's a good time if you're, check it out.
Yeah. Well, you have fun with that. I'm going to be running my Sentra XL.
Oh, okay.
Nissan Sentra XL. Sorry. My first car was a Nissan Sentra.
Oh.
Yep.
My first car was a Ford Escort.
I played a song the other night. I don't know if anybody heard that after the stream because it was a pretty intense stream Friday night.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
So I played this song. It was actually my song that I did.
Oh.
I guess maybe I won't do it this time but it is up on my Patreon, and you can listen to that even if you aren't paid patron. You should go over there at patreon.com/actualfandom.
Check it out.
Tomorrow is Monday. Got the Monday update coming that everybody can listen to that, even if you're not paying. But it's also acts as a bit of a, hey, you should consider paying, but you don't have to. Other than that, what do we got? We're doing a shill this week, Bob, right? I think Turf said he's not gonna be around this week because he's got exam stuff happening. He's like furthering his education and bullshit.
What?
Yeah, he's like a kid. He's a little kid, basically. It's not even.
Well, if you absolutely need another body, I can hop on.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually on vacation this week, so
that would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's completely fine. We're honestly trying to get it to a point where we have a good pool of people that we can kind of alternate, in and out people as they want to, and availability. So that's not just always everybody having to be there every week all the time, and different voices, different perspectives, more or less all, kind of driving for the same goals and whatnot. Well, there you go. You got the approval from the real puppet master of the initiative.
The real puppet master. Yeah. The God King.
The whole shut up Bob thing. That's just we came up with that to, throw people off the scent.
Oh, for sure. No, I totally understood that. Yeah, that is part of the thing, right? I am committed to the bit.
He was like, so you guys got to start saying shut up. And we're like, we don't want to, Bob. And he's like, no, you're going to fucking do it. We were like, okay, God damn, Bob. Sorry, man. Sorry.
We know who the king is.
Yeah, it's too late. I revealed the secret.
It's that magician secrets revealed thing from the early 2000s.
Oh God. I feel like they never really revealed anything too good, too interesting. Is that just me?
Here's the thing about magic. Magicians, like stage magicians and stuff, they patent their tricks, right? There's a patent for all that. You can go to a patent office and just look that shit up. It's just boring. I hope you like schematics.
Yeah.
So I don't think, they made it like, oh, he's revealing secrets and all people are going to be upset. It's like, what, that he read some patents? Oh, okay.
I guess so. But I mean, if you learn the secrets, if you really dedicate yourself to the craft, there's no sexier a position than a role than magician, right? You'll have people coming up to you in the streets like,
if you don't let me suck your dick, I'm gonna kill
I don't know about that.
Take your pen.
Yeah, I think with when you go see a stage show or see a magician, it's an act of sleight of hand. But it is the how and the holy shit, right? It's the technical performance that I think is the interesting part, that that much work goes into creating this illusion.
Well, it's like excuse me, it's like knowing that this is a trick. It's not really, if you're a reasonable person.
Right.
It's not actually magic, but you're giving your consent to be deceived in a fun way that's harmless, but and it kind of teases your mind, and that can be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was trying to find a Wolverine thing because we didn't really do any bub posting. That's my bad.
We could talk about Sabretooth War.
Yeah, that's true. There's the one issue out so far, though. Right?
Isn't it 2 now? Didn't the second one just come out?
Did I miss the second one, maybe?
I think you may have missed an issue.
Okay. Well, I mean, so I did go back and I did get Sabretooth, the Adversary, and the one that follows that up, because I had not read those. So now I know what happened in his time in the pit, and it's a lot more eventful than I would have thought.
Well, I hope so, because they released a comic about it. So if he was just sitting in there in stasis forever, I imagine.
Well, he kind of was, but I mean, there was more to it than that. So like he technically, physically was just in one spot for a while, but then some other people got put down there too,
right?
And I didn't know about that. I don't know if that happened in other stories or if it was just written into this story or what. But like 5 other mutants, including what's his name, the old I forget. I don't know. My brain is crapping out on me.
That's fair. It's Sunday.
But okay, so Sabretooth is an interesting thing, because I was thinking about how, like, we've talked before about how generally fiction these days, they're starting to veer away from making characters just evil, right?
Right.
Like, there's very few characters anymore. Like, even I talked about the Shadow King. Somebody mentioned that like
right, a couple weeks ago.
They made it to where it's now the Shadow King is an entity that made Ahmud Farouk, it kind of corrupted him,
right?
And it's like, and it's not only like just ethically wiser, it's also just better storytelling, in my opinion. Usually, it's more interesting.
I think it's kind of surprising it took them that long, because some of the most popular comic book villains are those who have a more interesting.
Your Magnetos and your Dr. Dooms,
right?
But I do appreciate the fact that it seems like they, the X-Men X office is like, nah, we're drawing the line with Sabretooth. That motherfucker's just kind of evil, like,
Right? You still like. I still think you need that type of character. You can't just do away with it entirely.
What also makes him more kind of like terrifying in a way. It's like he's when there's not as many of characters that are just evil, and you got this one guy running around that's like, oh, he's the one guy that we have to fucking lock him inside this island, because
right away, right the fuck away,
immediately,
day one, yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. And Sabretooth War, the first issue that I read, which was the first of it, you got to give him credit for always remembering Wolverine's birthday.
Happy birthday.
And he goes out of his way. He goes through a lot of effort for Wolverine to, give him something he won't forget.
And this definitely. Holy fucking shit.
And I knew something was going to happen too, because in spoiler alert, by the way, for Wolverine number 40, I think it is, because I think it's a 10-part thing, right? And it's going to
be that long. Oh my god!
Yeah, and it's going to end with number 50. I think it's going to, kind of like it's a good milestone there. But yeah, he when he's like, it starts with him talking about Wolverine's birthday and how and then also he goes and he's like has a run-in with Daken, and they're all like being, kind of sweet together in their Wolverine-ish way, right? Like he comes up behind him and he's like, oh, I could have snuck up on you or whatever. And he's like, and then after, right before the thing happens, Daken's talking to some other mutant that's sitting there, by the fire or whatever. And he's like, you know what? Things are going pretty good with me and Logan now. He's like, things were rough for a while, to say the least.
To understate it.
You know what? I actually do have something, speaking now that I remember. Ooh. But I don't want to keep you any longer, because I know you said you wanted to, go to bed.
Well, go and share this one.
This one's okay. So
give yourself 15 minutes for bub posting.
Let me pull this sucker open here. Sabretooth and the Exiles. That's the name of the other one.
Oh yeah, that was one of like the lead into Fall of X. I did not read that one.
And then, Resurrection Magneto is another one that came out.
Yep.
Avengers Twilight's pretty good. 2 issues in so far. It's pretty good.
I have not checked that one out.
Now, where is... Here we go. So, X-23, the complete collection. I think I might have mentioned it last week or something, but...
Yeah.
Did we look at any of it?
Yes. There was a page you showed that had some questionable art, but was very good. Like, the story was very good.
Well, so this is more from almost... Yeah, right around there. You got Gambit and Laura are in good old Madripoor.
Yep, I think this is the one you showed off.
Is it?
Yeah.
With the 2 of them?
Yeah, I think so. Or you talked about it.
I think I did kind of mention it, but I don't think I showed this because I don't remember showing it. But
okay, we'll pull it up.
So in this moment, you've got Daken in his costume that I didn't ever know I never knew that he wore this ever. I think this might be the only couple of issues he ever did. It's like a almost Wolverine, but not quite kind of thing.
He's had a really inconsistent costumes, and the best one was the X Factor one, but those costumes were just fire.
Yeah, this is that's the costume right there.
Oh my god, it's gross. I hate it.
It's like Wolverine without the ears things.
Yeah,
and
it's like between I'm getting this like half Wolverine, half Iron Fist vibe from it, and I hate it.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And he's generally being an abusive dickhead to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's how he was back then. So they're setting up some kind of thing where they're trying to, exchange something, blah, blah, blah. And they meet for the first time. Oh yeah, that's what happened. So Gambit literally fucking charges up a car and throws it at him. That's pretty cool. He also charges up Daken's arm, which I remember being when I was a kid. I would think, oh, I wonder what would happen if you did that to a person. And
that,
well, it finally got to learn that.
Will explode you.
It explodes his arm pretty good. You've got X-23 pulling out some fingernails here. It's pretty cool. And then this is interesting. Just he's like flirting with Gambit, and
right.
Gambit, he's a good guy. He doesn't he's not offended because he's a guy. He's offended because he's him.
Right.
He's like, yeah, fuck you.
I feel like if someone was going to be offended there, it would be Rogue, because don't flirt with her man.
Right.
And then Rogue will break you.
So yeah, you got a cool little encounter between these two, where this is where he ends up catching his punch. He's like, and this, this is why Daken's a piece of shit, or he was.
Yeah,
he's like,
he's a piece of shit forever.
He's like, do you really think anything that happens today is make you a better man? Everyone knows exactly what you are. A man who would betray a friend at the drop of a hat for a little bit of righteousness. You'll do the same to her one day. Well, that was a mistake. Mentioning her.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
Yeah, so sorry about your arm, dude. It'll grow back.
You will grow that back.
And this was supposed to be an exchange where Daken was supposed to be doing a kindness in a way. They agreed to hand over the guy that he was working with, who's trying to restart the Weapon X project, right? Supposed to hand him over so Laura can shut that shit down. But they didn't understand the full deal here, which is that he's actually working for Daken, who's trying to restart the Weapon X project.
Oh.
And so this is all a ruse. This guy knew that he was going to be handed over to them.
Right. It was all part of a clever plan.
And this was the ultimate real result, was to get her.
Right.
So, man, look at that smug shithead.
That is a guy whose art has improved greatly over the years.
For sure. It's amazing how you draw him can make him just much more appealing, or at least not so
or not so fucking creepy. Like, he just looks rapey.
He does. He really does. So, and then the cool thing that I was trying to get to with this one real quick is the exchange that these two have at the end of. So you've got here, they hit her with the trigger scent.
Right.
And she killed a bunch of people that, they wanted her to kill.
Right.
I guess, fortunately, there were people who were trying to recreate the Weapon X project. And that was really, I guess, what he wanted, Dakin, which is like not really to create the Weapon X project. It was to manipulate the situation to get her to kill all them and just like to see what she would do.
Just
kind of
right,
thing.
because he's a fucker.
Yeah. And then they basically evacuate whoever's left in the facility and whatnot, and then they're gonna go. They decide, actually, let's just blow this place up now.
Is that the shaving cream from Jurassic Park?
Huh?
Go back on the left page in the middle panel. There's that like canister with the little vials in it, and I'm just like, wait, is it the fucking thing from Jurassic Park? The shaving cream can with all the DNA samples in it.
I don't remember that enough to know, but I mean, if you recognize it, then it's got to be something similar, right?
I guess, yeah.
It's got to be something there. Then they have to fight a bunch of these guys. The art in this one is actually pretty cool, I believe. Yeah,
I would say so.
Yeah, a lot of blood, lots of. So you got for the first time ever, back to back, side by side, the son and the clone, just ripping shit up, and that's kind of cool. So they just, by circumstances that, of course, he directly caused, they ended up having to fight their way out together. And
because Dakin just can't do something straight. he's got to be a disaster bisexual about it.
Let's see.
Bob, as long as that crossover doesn't happen on the Savage Lands and I don't have to be re-traumatized, I'm down for that. Bob, so I'm not going to indulge your kink and tell you what you want to hear.
So they start having like sharing some concern for each other around this point too, because that's what happens. Right here, he gets injured pretty fucking badly. I think he kind of gets gored, and she's kind of saves his ass.
Right.
And then,
because they kind of bond later on when there's that arc after Wolverine dies, and it's him and her, like trying to get his body back to bury him. And then Old Man Logan's involved somehow.
So, like, this is just to give you a taste of his mindset at this point. He's been manipulated by fucking Romulus this whole life.
We don't, yeah.
Anyway, but he's a piece of shit. He's basically what Romulus and other government agents and whatnot wished Wolverine had actually become.
Right.
So he's asking her here, what are you doing? And she's like, they were children. I killed children. But they weren't really. They were kind of like made into these monsters, mutated kind of thing. And he says, it matters. Or she says, it matters. And he says, that's what pretending to be a hero does to you. It makes you soft. So he's like so cynical that like, and fucking warped that he can't even comprehend that she might actually not want to kill people, especially children.
Right. But what if not kill people?
Yeah. So she starts talking to him about, have the trigger scent about being a puppet and not having control, losing your identity. And I think that kind of gets through to him a little bit. Because he never really considered that, like, even though he thinks he's doing whatever he wants to do, basically. Right. But
except
ultimately,
not really.
yeah, everything he's doing is because it's desired by people that set him into motion a long time ago.
It wasn't even like in Uncanny X-Force in the arc with him, wasn't it like that he had just basically been set up by Sabretooth anyways?
Yep. I think so. Sorry, I'm trying to find this one part where they have an exchange. Okay. Okay, so he asks her, I'm curious about something, Laura. And this is right after they've decided they're going to blow up the facility and while they're both in it still.
Oh, my.
Yeah. He says, I'm curious. I want to know why. She says, why what? Why do you limit yourself? She says, I don't understand the question. He says, I suppose that answers it. You were raised to be a killer, and you are. It's in your genes. You're good at it. By all accounts, that's all you should aspire to be. And yet, you care. You have a heart. I don't know why. And she goes, what does that have to do with limiting myself? She says, because caring is weakness. All these people, they're beneath you. They could take any life. You could take any life in an instant. Your power could be absolute and breathtaking. She says, yes, I know. He says, then what is it holding you back? She says, what I have to prove has nothing to do with power. He goes, huh. And then they blow up.
They explode.
But don't worry, they're okay. Well,
right, they get better.
And then she says, I have a question. He says, Colcord is dead. She's like, that's not the question. Why do you limit yourself? Well, what do you mean? I don't. You care about power, but that is something you already have. Power comes easy to you, but you choose not to care. You limit your heart. I do not know why, unless you think caring for others is more dangerous than seeking power.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that he doesn't change in this moment or anything, but I think that was a seed planted for sure.
Right. That's sort of the groundwork that
he's like, maybe I don't have a heart, maybe power is all I have or all I need. And then he nakedly walks away. So there you go. We got a bub posting without an actual bub there.
The children of the bub.
And especially considering his fate right now, I wanted to pay my respects because, look, he's not in a good place. He's not in several good places.
He's really fallen to pieces.
I'm glad you saw where I was going.
Yeah, I saw it. All over the snow.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I'm kind of surprised that was it supposed to be several Sabretooths did that to him? Because
I think so.
Okay, I wouldn't think that he would go that quickly with just one Sabretooth.
I think you would need a saber mouth. Not just a saber tooth, like at least saber teeth, but maybe a whole saber mouth.
Yeah, true. All right. Trick is something. What? Okay. I think I forgot what prompted that.
We were talking about magicians. It's called having a soul.
It is called having a soul. And just in case you weren't aware, there's anybody using woke in this chat. Generally, if I'm not telling them to shut the fuck up, then they're probably being sarcastic. Ironic.
Right.
But yeah. So that's about all she wrote for today. And then
next week we'll be on the other side of comics, talking about the Man of Steel and how he took the Klan for a ride in both on in comics and in our world.
Yep, it's in radio show had an effect in real life, and then later on was made into and I actually have a kind of some personal anecdote that I can talk about as far as the KKK.
I'm sure that's interesting. Yeah, I have a 1 degree of separation.
Yeah, me too. By father is where my connection is. I mean, he wasn't he wasn't
right.
in the KKK, but he definitely knew some people, and he had a direct, kind of contact and worked with and stuff like that in the 70s. And we'll get there.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting
You
story.
guys have a good week and whatnot. And thanks for sticking around. And please subscribe and like and all those things.
Check out
And
the Patreon. Subscribe for free there.
do
Or
that.
subscribe for money.
Subscribing for money is cool, but so is for free. And you know what else is cool? Praising Bill.
Praise Bill.
May Bill Gaines shine his heavenly light upon you and impregnate you with many happy days and joy fetuses. May your anuses be cleansed by the purifying light that exudes from Bill Gaines' eternal dragon phallus. Should you meet your mortal demise this day, go with comfort that you have satisfied the commands of the one true Bill, those being this: read comic books. Fuck the dumb shit. Be yourself. Love each other. Also, read more comics and grow your hair out all goddamn while. Amen.
Actual fandom is not going to stop.